Well, it's a strategic issue everywhere. So globally, there's a much greater recognition of the importance of human capital in form of people's expertise and experience, and that often is the most valuable asset for any company, and the management of that is a strategic issue. But it's also part of a global change in terms of the HR function from an administrative role to one which is much more a strategic partner for companies. As well as that, in this particular region, which is a troubled zone, but one which is experiencing huge economic growth, say in the UAE, then talent is a scarce resource, and we're competing against the rest of the world to bring in expertise which actually it tends to be attracted to other regions of the world. As well as that, practice here in the Middle East lags behind quite often the practices that you find in the West, in the US and the UK in particular, and many of the practices you will find in large companies are not actually applied here. So strategically, it's a really critical issue to improve how talent and how people are managed effectively. Well, that's quite an easy question to answer. It's basically designed for anyone who's taking on a strategic role for the management of people. So it's not about the administration of human resources, but anywhere where you take on a much more strategic role for the deployment of human resources, this program should suit them. So we're typically looking for HR directors and managers, but it could also be, for example, C-level executives, because they need to know more about how they incorporate talent management issues within their own sphere of operation, but also consultants and specialists in the field as well. Well, that's a great question, and of course it's basically the content of the programme, so I won't be able to answer it instantly. But basically, the trick for most HR specialists, and again the content of this programme is really, the trick is to really understand the nature of the business deeply, and to understand what are the skills and the expertise that really make a difference for the business itself. So continually I find organisations who do not understand what makes a difference to their business, what is critical, what's going to get them the extra business, beat the competition. They have competency frameworks but maybe don't understand what really makes the difference. And that is kind of, you know, what those working in a strategic field in HR need to deal with. They need to understand what those skills are and then do everything in their power to literally capture those skills and expertise effectively for the benefit of the business. And that's why we say modern HR specialists should be strategic partners for the business, not an administrative function. They should be people who actually understand the business and are able to help the rest of the business capture the expertise, the skills that they actually need to perform well. But, you know, even the concept of business success itself can be a very difficult concept for individuals to understand. And I'm going to lay claim to say a simple question of how many CEOs in the region running organisations really can list and understand fully the top 5 skills that make a difference to their business. Great question, but it's also a very complicated answer, okay? But let's have, you know, I think for me, engagement is the #1 issue, you know, so, and by that I mean, when the motivational needs of each employee match the organisation's needs perfectly, then you have full engagement, full productivity, the employee is satisfied, the company gets what it wants out of them. And that's really what most of the kind of strategic choices that an organisation makes are all about, trying to get that perfect match between the individual's needs and wants and the organisations are the intimate ones. So for me, the most critical strategic choice that companies have to make is how seriously they take on board those issues that are raised by, for example, the concept of the war for talent. So how seriously, as a CEO, am I going to take on board the need to attract, recruit, retain the right sort of talent and expertise that my company needs to survive in the future and grow successfully? And that requires a whole range of choices about how I actually do those things. So for me, that's kind of the starting point. After that, there are lots of strategic choices, but that fundamental choice about how do I do those things is really what all CEOs should be preoccupied with. I think most important, this workshop's not a kind of operational workshop. It's not a kind of, the HR function. So it's not suited for those who just want to get a kind of overview of the HR function and learn about employee satisfaction surveys and things like that. What it is really about the choices facing modern directors, so even very experienced HR directors, and how to make the right choices. Effectively, what we want to do is kind of open people's eyes, even in quite successful companies, and confront them with dilemmas, confront them with the options, so they can kind of see their world perhaps in a slightly different way, almost like a workout with people who work in the same sphere. So it's not even about best practice, yeah? It's actually, the organisations that will be around in the next 100 years will not be the ones who complete all the forms, who carry out the best practice. They'll actually be the ones where the directors, all functional directors, are able to ask the right questions, yeah, and have the courage sometimes to go outside the box and to see that there are other ways they should be doing things for the benefit of the business. That's what will create their survival, and that's what we hope the programme's all about. So not about admin, HR as an admin role, but fundamentally about strategic choices and how do we make the right ones.